Hello friends, I welcome you to my channel. Today, we will discuss about one of the most successful global business giant. So, let us begin. The story of Coca-Cola begins quietly, with glass and syrup and carbonated water in a small Atlanta pharmacy in 1886. Dr. John Stith Pemberton, a pharmacist and former army officer, stood behind the counter with a notebook and a spoon, testing a new mixture. He had tried many recipes before, tonics for pain, syrups for coughs, but this time he wanted something people would drink for pleasure. He mixed a thick, caramel-colored syrup, from a blend of oils, extracts, and sugar, handed it to the soda fountain clerk, and watched as the clerk added chilled, sparkling water. The drink hissed, softly and turned a lighter brown. Customers tasted it and felt a gentle bite, a lift, and then a clean finish. That day they sold 9 glasses at 5 cents each. There was no launch event. There was only a handful of sips and a feeling that this one might be different. A bookkeeper, named Frank Robinson, believed in that feeling. He gave the drink a name that sounded both medicinal and musical, Coca-Cola, and wrote it in a rolling script that looked like it was already famous. The script made the drink easier to remember. The name made it easy to say. In the early weeks, the syrup lived only at the soda fountain. People would come to the counter to chat, to cool off, to try whatever was new. The city was small enough that a good idea could spread by conversation. But a good idea still needed a champion, and Pemberton's health was fading. Within a year he sold his rights, in pieces, to men who saw a future he could no longer carry. The person who carried it best was Asa Griggs Candler. Candler was a merchant, with a sharp eye for habit and scale. He understood that a drink becomes a brand when people see it everywhere and try it once. He blanketed towns with handbills and calendars and clocks bearing the curved red script. He handed out paper coupons for a free glass. He supplied soda fountains with urns and signs so the counter itself looked like an advertisement. The strategy was simple. Put the name in front of people until they felt they already knew the taste, and then let one cold sip finish the sale. By the mid-1890s, Coca-Cola was no longer an Atlanta curiosity. It was a traveling habit. The next turn came from a question outsiders asked. In 1899, 2 lawyers from Chattanooga proposed bottling the drink so people could carry it away from the counter. Candler worried that quality might slip if strangers handled it, but he agreed to license bottling anyway. That decision built the backbone of the company's future. A franchise system, in which the Atlanta parent kept the recipe, the concentrate, and the brand, while independent bottlers built plants, bought trucks, hired salesmen, and got cold bottles onto local shelves. Suddenly a Coca-Cola did not require a marble counter and a clerk, it required only a bottle and a cap. Imitators quickly appeared. Names and labels looked close enough to mislead a fast buyer. So in 1915, the company asked glassmakers to create a bottle so distinct that you would recognize it by feel in the dark. The contour bottle they chose, pinched in the middle, flared above and below, solved a practical problem and invented a visual language. A child could spot it in a crate from across a store. Even broken on the ground, the curves gave it away. The bottle taught the market who was who before anyone took a sip. It also taught the company a lasting lesson. Design is strategy when the shelf is crowded. Through the 1910s and 1920s, the nickel price held steady. A Coke cost a nickel in cities and towns for so long that the coin and the drink felt tied together. Bottlers learned efficiency because the price left little room for mistakes. The parent company learned to invest in what mattered most: consistent taste, wide cold availability, and simple, friendly messages. The pause that refreshes. That matched the small pleasure of a glass on a hot afternoon. No lecture, no claims of miracle health. Just a pause, and a smile as the bubbles touched your lip. Then the world went to war, and Coca-Cola made a promise that turned logistics into love. During the Second World War, the company vowed that every American service member could buy a Coke for 5 cents, wherever they were. It shipped bottling machinery overseas, built plants near bases, trained people to run them, and delivered cold bottles to dusty mess tents and snow-covered outposts. When soldiers returned home, The taste meant comfort and the sound of the cap meant home. Many of those wartime plants stayed after peace returned. The brand followed the map of bases and became part of the post-war map of business. Advertising learned to carry feeling without shouting. A Christmas campaign painted a kind, rosy-cheeked Santa holding a Coke, and for many families the brand's red and white blended with the season's colors. A Hilltop commercial in the early 1970s sang about teaching the world to sing, and a sugared drink somehow sounded like harmony for a minute. This was not an accident. Coca-Cola's marketers understood a simple rule. The drink is small, so the promise should be small too. Not health. Not heroism. Just a shared moment that feels better than thirst. All stories have stumbles. In the 1980s, the cola wars sharpened as Pepsi marketed itself as youthful and bold. Blind taste tests seemed to show a preference for sweeter sips. Worried about losing the next generation, the company changed its formula and released New Coke. The public reaction was immediate and emotional. People kept their old cans, they called hotlines, they scolded executives on television. The company listened, swallowed its pride, and brought back the original as Coca-Cola Classic. The episode taught a public lesson in the power of memory and a private lesson in humility. A brand is not a lab experiment. It is a relationship with millions of small rituals. Change those rituals too quickly and people will tell you what the real product is. The modern company grew outward from the red label. It added and acquired brands, Fanta, born in wartime Europe, Sprite's lemon lime brightness, Maid, juices, Dasani water, Powerade for sports, and in many countries it kept beloved local names rather than replace them. In India, it kept Thums Up's Cola Bite under the same roof. In Mexico, glass bottles stayed popular and returnable. In Japan, vending machines became a specialty. The portfolio made the company less dependent on one taste, and the bottling system, now often consolidated into big regional firms, kept cold drinks moving to kiosks and supermarkets and beach shacks faster than rivals could match. If you listen for strategy under the music of ads and the rattle of crates, you hear the same tune played for a century. Keep one global idea, refreshment with a friendly face, while letting local teams speak local tongues. Own the brand, the recipe, and the standards, but let local bottlers own the streets. Price and package for many pockets at once. Tiny returnable glass for quick sips, sleek cans for city fridges, big pet bottles for family dinners. Protect cold availability because a warm Coke is a broken promise. And keep the storytelling simple enough to translate without losing heart. Strength shows up in all those choices. The Coca-Cola name and the contour bottle travel without translation. The distribution web reaches more corners than most consumer companies can imagine. The company can launch a theme in dozens of languages and have it feel like one song. When people think soft drink, many think Coke first and only then decide if they want something else. Retailers trust the system to supply, service, and promote. These are not abstract advantages. They are habits built over decades. A cooler filled, a shelf faced, a route driven at sunrise, a cap chilled to the right sound. Weakness hides in success. Heavy reliance on sugary colas exposes the brand to changing tastes and to rules that tax or restrict sweetened drinks. A symbol of indulgence can turn into a symbol of excess if the culture swings. The company once leaned so hard on the core product that it underplayed water, low-calorie choices, and smaller portions. Only later did it rush to expand those lines. And in a franchise system, quality and speed can vary by local partner, which means the parent must constantly train, audit, and nudge rather than command. Opportunity sits close at hand. Many people want the fizz and the feeling but not the sugar, so no sugar variants keep getting better at taste. Smaller packages let a treat feel reasonable. Bottled waters, flavored seltzers, teas, and coffees add moments around the day that cola does not own. Digital tools can route trucks smarter, place coolers where they work hardest, and help small shops order with a tap. The brand's emotional capital can introduce lighter choices without sounding like a lecture. And in developing markets where per capita consumption is still low, simple availability and affordability can create new daily habits. Threats are as wide as the world the brand serves. Health regulators can raise taxes or restrict marketing to children. Plastic waste and water use demand better materials and stricter stewardship. A company that sells billions of packages must help collect and recycle billions too, or risk losing moral license to operate. Local competitors can be nimble with flavors and prices. Economic shocks can cut cold drink spending just as summer begins. Even the weather can wound. A cool, wet season hurts impulse sales. The numbers help fix the scale in the mind without turning the story into a spreadsheet. Coca-Cola products are sold in more than 200 countries and territories. The system serves well over 1 billion drinks a day, with thousands of people working in the parent company and hundreds of thousands more in the bottling firms, warehouses, and delivery fleets that carry the red circle into neighborhoods. The brand is consistently ranked among the most valuable in the world. None of this was built by one decision. It was built by a century of small, repeating acts that made the next sale easier than the last. Challenges keep the story honest. Sugar taxes arrived in city after city. The company responded with smaller cans, reformulated recipes, and clear calorie labels. Plastic became a public worry. The company pledged to help collect and recycle a bottle or can for everyone it sells and to increase the use of recycled content, while testing plant-based materials and refillable systems where they make sense. Water scarcity focused attention on replenishment projects and careful factory use. None of these problems has a single solution. Each demands constant engineering, local partnerships, and steady transparency so trust grows rather than shrinks. The lessons in this long narrative are plain enough for a small business and large enough for a global one. First, beginnings matter. A good product and a name people like can live for a century, but only if someone turns 9 glasses into a habit. Second, distribution is destiny. You win the shelf, the cooler, and the route, or you don't win at all. Third, brand is a promise kept in 1,000 tiny ways. The chill, the taste, the cap's sound, the price that feels fair, the ad that feels like you rather than at you. Fourth, humility beats bravado when you are wrong. The new Coke lesson was not a failure of courage, it was a success of listening. Fifth, variety protects the core. A strong flagship should be surrounded by options that let different ages, incomes, and preferences join without guilt. Picture a closing day that ties beginning to now. A shopkeeper in Lagos wipes the glass of a red-lit cooler at dawn. A boy in Jaipur brings 2 returnable bottles back to the counter and swaps them for cold ones. A grandmother in Mexico City pours a small bottle into cups with ice for Sunday lunch, the sound of the pour as familiar as the tablecloth. A teenager in London taps a vending machine screen and chooses a sleek zero-sugar can. Somewhere in Atlanta, a marketer edits a short video in a dozen languages that shows nothing more complicated than friends laughing and clinking glass. And in a bottling plant outside Manila or Madrid or Manaus, a line of contour bottles moves in perfect rhythm under bright lights, each one filled to the same line, capped to the same click, boxed for the same promise. That promise began with a pharmacist, a bookkeeper, and 9 glasses in a city that did not yet know what it was thirsty for. It grew through a licensing gamble that built a franchise network town by town. It kept its shape with a bottle you could recognize in the dark. It stumbled, apologized, and learned to listen. It spread by telling small stories about refreshment and togetherness instead of big stories about virtue. Its swag lives in the choices it makes each day. Strength, in brand and reach, weakness, in sugar and sameness. Opportunity, in lighter choices and smarter routes. Threat from rules and rivals and waste. Its strategy is still the same sentence in new words. Be simple, be everywhere, be cold, be kind. If Coca-Cola keeps those 4, the fizz in the bottle will be more than carbon dioxide. It will be the sound of a long, careful promise kept again